Hello guys, how are you? This is Arun. We always perceive in our life that our problems are always big and we always complains. But there are some people in this world who just accept it and challenge it. Today we are going to meet a young Bosnian girl, Anela. Though born in a very war-torn country of Bosnia, she fought with all the odds to fulfill her dreams. So let's hear from Anela more about her.
Hello.
Hello, Anna, how are you?
How I'm okay. How about you?
Yeah, all well. Anna, welcome officially to our channel, Talk with the Titans. So the main motto behind our channel that we always interview very successful people who has been very successful in their professional and business life. So when you share your tips, that will be really helpful for the person, so they can actually plan their career according to that. So your insight will be very helpful for so many people.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, definitely. That's our pleasure. So,
Okay, so what would
yeah.
you like to know?
Is it okay if I
Um,
start from your childhood, your parents, and actually where you do your schooling?
it is perfectly fine. Okay, so I was born in a middle class family. So
Mm-hmm.
my father he used to be a teacher, and my mother was a bank clerk.
Oh,
It was just after the war. It was the Bosnian War. Not sure
yeah,
whether
okay.
you're familiar with it, but my country suffered went through let's say, a great war. And when I was 5, my father decided to sign me up for school.
Mm-hmm.
The main problem was that no one was able to take care of me. Back then, children would start school at the age of 7, and I was
Mm-hmm.
5. I was so tiny back then. They used to call me the baby of the class.
Okay.
And he told me, like, I remember him telling me, I know it's going to be a bit difficult for you, but you already know how to read, you know how to write. I don't see why you should stay at home.
Uh-huh.
Go to school, try to do your best. Don't be concerned with grades, but I'm sure you're going to be the best because I know that. So it's been really tough in the way, because when you're the youngest, especially when there's that 2-year gap, let's call it
Mm-hmm.
like that, it's difficult because your peers do not immediately accept you.
Mm-hmm.
They think they're kind of better than you are. And well, I made him proud in the sense that my father, he was really proud that when I became the student of the generation after I completed my primary education. After then, I went to a boarding school,
Mm-hmm.
and after my boarding school, I studied at the university. I completed my MA degree, and now I'm pursuing my PhD degree.
Oh, that's really good. You always thought so. Education is always part of you. You always actually focus on education.
Well, yes, because my father was a teacher, and you know that kind of girls, they like to bond with their fathers more than with their mothers. And my sister, she's also a teacher, and I kind of looked up to him, and I just wanted to be like him because he was really successful. People like him, especially because whenever there was some sort of competition, my
Mm-hmm.
father would win the first prize, and he would win the gold medal, whatever it was. So I really want to be like my father. And I remember saying I want to be a teacher, and he's like, I'm not sure whether you can do that, because it's really stressful. It's
Mm-hmm.
not, let's say, more about the education part rather than talking, be able to communicate with people, especially with the students, in a kind of way, in a nice way, successful way.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember after completing my secondary education, my high school, I told him, Daddy, I really want to be a teacher. I want to finish my university degree, obtain my university degree, and then move on to becoming a teacher. And he's like, well, I'm not sure that's going to be a good thing for you, because I've been a teacher for, let's say, 30 years. It's a war-torn country. A lot of students are moving abroad.
Mm-hmm.
We're not, let's say, up to date like America or the UK, or let's say some other well-developed country. I'm not sure you're going to withstand that. And I was like, I'm going to do that. I want to be a teacher. I want to pass on my knowledge. I want to be the best, let's say, the best teacher that I can be, the best teacher that I know. And I told him the first thing I'm gonna do is to complete my university degree, and I'm going to become a teaching assistant. And he told me, I don't think you're going to be able to do that. You know, you're too young. You're let's say you're not so mature. But I made it in the end.
Okay. So you never want to follow your mother's step, that is into packing industry?
No. Economy, mathematics is definitely not my cup of tea. Definitely not. And it was really interesting with my father talking about children, my sister talking about kids, and then me talking about my peers. And mother was considered to be some sort of outcast, you know, someone who doesn't fit in the rest of the family.
So in PhD, what is your discipline? What you are active into?
Okay, I'm focusing on linguistics and applied linguistics. Yeah, cognitive and applied linguistics. So I'm actually focusing on how people understand certain things in terms of their cognition, especially language, because we take many words and examples for granted. For instance, if I tell you I'm going to attack your argument, I'm not going to do that literally, but you already understand it's not literally but metaphorically, you know. You understand the second meaning, even though it's not the primary meaning, because if you attack someone, you do it either, let's say, you use a club or some sort of other weapon. But attacking your argument means to attack someone metaphorically. So how people understand that something is a metaphor, how come that we activate that meaning instead of the first meaning?
Oh, okay, that's really good. See, what kind of is something related to psychology and everything?
Yes, in a way. Or for instance, when we see a joke, how we understand that joke, what happens in the process, especially, let's say, if you see a meme. Okay, let's say Donald Trump acting like a clown, for instance, because Donald Trump is really popular these days. So when you see when you see the meme, him acting as a clown, what are the domains? We call them domains. What are domains that we take these elements from, and that we get that meme as a let's say as a compound, as a one single unit? And how do we unpack that? How do we understand that?
Yeah, that's really a really interesting subject. Actually, it's very rare that people actually select this subject. It's really what is interesting. I really like to know more about that. See,
okay. I don't know how to help you. I can send you my materials. You can read about them.
not that much to what is a common understanding, because when you just explain that your discipline, your subject, I didn't realize that. So that's why I often ask you what is that subject up to. When you explain to me, obviously that looks really interesting for me.
It is because you can analyze many different things, such as cartoons, memes, pictures, advertisements, everything that we take for granted, that we understand in a split of a second, but it takes, it happens really fast in our mind, but it takes a lot of, let's say, things to come together, to let's say, act as a single unit in order for that to be successful.
Okay. So how do you actually come to this subject? Actually, is any person influenced you or?
Okay, because as I was studying at university, we had one subject called cognitive linguistics.
Okay.
And for instance, we were all familiar with metaphor, but metaphor in literature, you know, something is like something else, A is B. It was kind of logical. But when you think about that, or metonymy, for instance, if I say today I'm having, for instance, a Cherry talk with Cherry, Mr. Cherry. So I'll be talking with Mr. Cherry. Or for instance, I'm having I'm going to buy a Ford, for instance. So you're using this Ford, you're using the name of a company to refer to a product. So that would be metonymy. Or for instance, Washington is negotiating with Beijing. It's not the Washington, it's not the city. but the people responsible. So that would be autonomy. And actually, no one thought about that. You know, you use so many things in our language and linguistics, and you never think about that, how our mind, let's say, shifts from one domain into another domain, from one entity into another entity. So why Washington? Why not people in the Washington, you know? Or let's say the government, or because you don't know who's responsible, or you're not sure. So in order to be on the safe side, you say Washington and Moscow, and so on. You have many examples. Or for instance, when you say, I'm reading Shakespeare today, you're not reading Shakespeare. You're actually reading a book that was written by Shakespeare.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. So that's metonymy. So using one thing to stand for another thing. And it was really kind of interesting, and I wanted to study more when it comes to that. And I pursued my MA degree in metaphor and metonymy, and then something new, let's say, crop up. It was so-called blending theory. So let's say it was the advancement of metaphor and metonymy. So I read a couple of papers, and my teachers really helped me, because teachers or professors, doesn't really matter. So because they published a couple of papers already, they told me how everything works, what I need to pay attention to, and it was really kind of interesting. And I said, okay, let's give it a try.
If somebody have asked me, or somebody have actually known this about subject earlier, maybe I would have actually choose that. But unfortunately, it's too late for me.
It's never late. It's never late. Yeah. But it all actually helps us discover all the intricacies in our mind, and how our mind is really complex, how we take it for granted. We don't think about those things. And how it takes a lot of time, because it really sounds simple, but it's not. You know, you have to place every single... you have to place every single element into different domains. Okay, so if you see, for instance, Donald Trump wearing, I'm using Donald Trump because he's really popular. It doesn't really matter, or whatever.
Yeah, so
if you see him, for instance, in a striped suit with a number, so you immediately know that he's a prisoner. You know, maybe because of certain deeds or certain actions. But you have to understand that maybe because of his statement, you're going to put the prison number, the uniform, depending on what kind of cartoon or meme is, into one domain. Then you have another domain consisting of everything that you know about Donald Trump. Then you make some mental mapping, so how things together, how they come together, how they blend, transferring into, let's say, another compound unit, how everyone understands it, then how to unpack it. It's really complicated. I know.
A lot of calculation and analysis part. And end up you come with the interpretation.
Yes.
That's really fantastic option. At least I now actually understand what is subject into.
Yeah, I'm glad. I'm so glad. Maybe you can. Maybe you will one day. Will read something about it, because it's really fun, especially when talking about, let's say, cartoons and memes. It's really fun because the way you understand jokes, especially humor. Oh my God.
I don't think that is my discipline. Maybe I stick to my own profession. That'd be better for me.
Okay. When it comes to maths, you don't do any testing. You simply, when you see something, you just try to understand how it came about. So you don't do any testing. You simply try to put everything into, let's say, let's call them like mental spaces. So mental space is something that crops up in your mind, something that you know about certain subject. So for instance, if I say, okay, let's say America. So everything that you know about America is immediately activated in your brain, and that would be a mental space. So we create these different mental spaces. So one for America, one for prison, and then we take these elements and we just blend them together, and that's how we understand the joke or the meme or whatever it was.
Yeah, that's really so. Anyway, what do you say? It's a very challenging and fantastic profession.
Yes, it is. Yeah,
really challenging. So what kind of, how you actually get that reference? So I know actually you have academic books for that. Apart from that, actually, how you actually this analysis assumptions? So is there any actually experimentation or something so that I can evaluate how you actually come to these conclusions?
Okay. Because you were given, when it comes to the original theory, you're given some latitude. Okay. In the sense that when it comes to these, let's say, mental spaces, you can have, let's say, more than one. You can put them, you don't have to put everything into a single one. So you're given, let's say, certain latitude as far as you obey certain principles, such as everything needs to be, I'm trying to find the best word. Everything needs to be credible. Everything needs to be a kind of, okay, when I say respecting principles, you mustn't destroy the autonomy of the cartoon or the meme. So there are certain things that you need to follow, and there's kind of a lot of list of them. So talking about them would take a lot of time, to be honest. But for instance, there are also some, apart from some principles, there are also some other things that you rely on that can help you. For instance, every single blend is unique, so you cannot make a mistake about that. A blend can be run in many different ways. So you can have, let's say, different interpretations. One main interpretation, but you can use them in let's say, in different contexts. So, or for instance, or for instance, time. In the blend, certain things grow over time faster. So if you see a child, and if you see an adult, let's say in the blend, you know that child became, for instance, an adult. So let's say there's certain things that you need to follow.
Okay. So you are actually completed that PhD, or you're still into?
I'm still into it. I'm in my final degree of it.
I just want to see your final presentation. I wish to know actually what is your presentation up to, and actually how these people judge all this. It's really interesting.
It is. I've actually already published like 2 or 3 papers on that topic.
Okay.
So I know it's really interesting.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
Every single person that read it was like, "Oh, we are so fascinated by that. Can you tell us more?" And I'm like, "I can tell you more, but I was sound like a maniac, like a lunatic, explaining all these things. You have to have some sort of background. You have to read, and then we can talk about that."
Yeah, that's really, obviously, it's really fantastic that by interacting you, I just learned a new concept, because if I would have never known that.
I'm so glad. You have to be careful about one thing. So when you're into metaphor, everything is kind of metaphorical to you. When you're into metonymy, everything is metonymy to you, And when you're into conceptual blending, everything is blending or blend for you. So you have to be careful not to overdo it.
When you started this profession into PhD, particularly this subject, and obviously I think it's have an impact in your personal life also, because before you started this profession, your attitude will be different. Once you start this profession, definitely your attitude will be different.
Oh, okay. Well, first of all, you have to balance your public and private life. That's what I call it, especially when you have a family. Yeah. But let's say that, like I mentioned before, you analyze things from a different perspective. You tend to maybe see the hidden agenda behind it. For instance, if we talk about metaphor, and I'm saying not the, we're talking about conceptual metaphor, not literal metaphor. So, okay, when I say, for instance, "Oh, I see that," what I mean is, yes, I understand that. So the metaphor that works in our mind, it's a cognitive one. Understanding is seeing. Or, for instance, when I say, okay, let me think of a good example. Okay. Okay, we aren't going anywhere. We are at a crossroads. This relationship is stuck. So we use, let's say, we use concept of journey to talk about love, because love is something that's kind of difficult to grasp, and journey is something that's more physical to us. So when you're not, let's say, familiar with these things, the way you use language, you simply don't think about that. But when you think about these things, when you're familiar with what's behind it, then you see how interesting world it is, and how interesting language it is, how language is still a living matter, and how people, let's say, find their way to express what they want, even though if it's something that's not so tangible, not so palpable, not so familiar, let's say abstract. And it's kind of fun, it forces you, it makes you want to let's say, know something, analyze more, do something about it, to see, if life is a journey or love is a journey in my language, what about their language? Do they see love as a journey or some other concept? So you can apply, on a micro scale, you can apply it to your own language, but you can also, let's say, if you apply it to a larger scale, you can also learn about different languages and different cultures, so how they perceive the world.
Okay, that's really good. First of all, one thing, Anna, you are a fantastic teacher, because I don't know anything about this subject, but you gave me some insight. That's really good. So I cannot accept your forward statement. You are a good teacher. So if you have any plan, go ahead. Obviously, I totally agree to you that.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, maybe of course when you're talking with your students, you don't, let's say, it doesn't sound too complicated for them, because you're taking baby steps. This was all over the globe. Yes, but I'm glad that you really enjoyed it. I'm glad that you've learned something new, and I'm glad that you can start thinking about how you perceive the world, and whether it's different.
Yeah, you give me a very good picture. The thing is, actually, once you actually complete this PhD, put it on your paper, what's your future plans about that? You want to have...
currently, I am a teaching assistant at the university. So in order to become a professor or a teacher, because when you're assistant, you're still called a teacher, even though you don't have the title. So when I complete my PhD degree or studies, I can become a certified teacher. Let's call it like that, a full-time teacher.
Okay, so normally how long will it actually take to complete your you present your paper?
Okay, so your, let's say, university, educations last for 4 years, then a master's usually lasts for 1 or 2. When it comes to PhD studies, they last for from 3 years to maybe, I don't know, 5 or 6. I'm hoping to have it completed by April next year.
Next year, that's almost, I think, less than 1 year. So all the best for that. Just let me know actually.
It's really ambitious.
Yes, seriously, just let me know actually when you complete it, because I'll be really curious. I'm really interested, like, to know, okay, what is your paper, how it went, and what do you come with a new idea. I really like to know, because this is actually a very realistic subject. See, basically I'm an auditor. See, my presentation is really easy. The profit and loss account, balance sheet. There's nothing different with that. So the figures will be different, but everything is just the same. But I think your subject is more realistic, and it's more, it's more lively.
It's more lively. It constantly makes you think about that. Why this word? Why not the other word? Why this concept? Why not the other concept? What does it mean? Because, for instance, when you're using metaphors, when you're talking to your kids, they don't understand metaphorical language, at all. If you say, I'm going to shoot a film, they're thinking about they're going to shoot a person. They don't understand. So yeah, then you teach them. It's metaphorical. Of course, you don't use the word metaphorical, but you simply teach them the meaning of that expression. But you, as a kid, don't think about that. But not even as an adult, you don't think about it. Why did I use shoot the film? Why did children understand shoot why did they take it as a real meaning and not as a metaphorical one? So it kind of, let's say, gives you some food for thought.
That's really actually what you say, that very, very appreciable for you, because you take a lane that was totally what you said. People always follow the same lane, never actually going the lane. People just follow the same thing. It's really good that you come with a new concept and you have full confidence in that, and you give your full commitment. That's really good.
Thank you very much.
Because actually people never do that.
People didn't do that. Yes. For instance, when it comes to metaphor, we're talking about conceptual metaphor, not literal metaphor. I always have to point that out because people tend to, let's say, equal the terms, and they're not. Conceptual metaphor is the way we think. Literal metaphor would be the way it might be, let's say, expressed in a language. So the theory is not new. Let's say it. Mr. Lakoff and Johnson talked about that even in the 90s. However, let's say many things changed the way they perceived, let's say, language and metaphors are different now in the sense that, for instance, they tend to let's say take examples and analyze them, saying, this is metaphorical, but you didn't have any let's say any proof for that. Now we do have proof when something is metaphorical or not. So let's say that there have been some sort of advancements when it comes to the theory. Okay, so I wouldn't say it's new. It's not old, but let's say we're trying to adopt a new approach to it. Okay. Let's put it like that.
So this concept was actually started its growth during the 1990s.
1980s, 80s.
1980s. Now actually, yes, it's been accepted and you are able to actually prove all this.
So yes, because it has been accepted. First of all, the first thing that they did is said, okay, metaphor is related to cognition. Natural language is the way we think, and then it transfers to the language. It's not the other way around. So that was, let's say, it's not the other way around, because people say, okay, he's a lion. Okay, in order to say that someone is brave, he's a lion. So they focus on the language. They don't focus on the thinking. And they said, okay, metaphor is universal. It exists everywhere. We just simply need to point that out. So that was accepted as let's say some sort of pillar. Yeah, that's true. Okay, some sort of like an axiom, something that you cannot question, you cannot debate about that. However, how do you prove that something is metaphorical? Okay, I know that the word "this attack" is metaphorical, because if I'm going to attack you, I'm not going to use any clubs or something. But how about some other words? For instance, if you say I'm in love, what do you do with that? So is the word, okay, love can be, let's say, metaphorical, but what about the word in? What about I? And what about am? So how do you analyze these things? So, and let's say some other scientists, they tended to it. They say, okay, so we're going to develop a procedure called metaphor identification procedure. Let's say to focus on all of these words, not let's say the words that we are kind of sure of, but all of them. So let's see how to what extent other words display the let's say metaphorical. To what extent they are metaphorical.
Oh, that's really good. So how was your father's reaction when he actually offered this metaphor?
Actually, he doesn't know anything about it.
Anyway, actually, he'll be really proud because you are taking a very fantastic subject. And being a teacher is the most main thing he can get. Actually, his daughter is actually taking a very fantastic subject. And once you become PhD, I can actually see his happiness on his face.
Thank you very much. When I obtained my degree, my university degree, or my BA, as it's called, I was offered a job as a teacher in a primary school. But I was also offered a job as a teaching assistant, and then I wanted to take the first one, and he was like, no, go for the second one. But I was like, but Daddy, I went, you're a teacher. I don't know why I have that strange obsession, me being a teacher, just my father was a teacher, but that doesn't really matter. And I was like, but Daddy, this primary school, it's really near my home, my house, and taking the second one would mean a lot of dedication, a lot of commitment, a lot of work. I'm not sure I can do that. And he told me, like, you've been always ambitious. Your father, Dad is proud of you. Go for the second one. Your mother, of course, your mother and I will always be there for you. So we're going to help you in any kind of way. So we're already proud of you because you were the youngest student. You had really good GPA, so you've already achieved everything that we kind of imagined or envisaged for you.
Okay, that's really. I know. I totally understand. I can understand what you actually from your in between words. That's really fantastic. I know actually your father will be very proud of you, and obviously your mother too. And I
Thank
personally
you
I
very
feel
much.
that after completing your presentation, we go for this actually, but for teacher, we will be very successful in that.
Thank
That's
you
only
very
my
much.
tips. That's up to you.
Thank you very much.
It's
Thank
all
you.
your way. That's always your choice. But Anna, that's really was a fantastic conversation because I don't want to take you much of time. And you give me a clear description of this method. Before that, I haven't got any idea about that. And you clearly explained what is up to. And really interesting to learn more about this subject. But coming to this calculation analysis, I don't know actually to what extent I'll be good at. So I think actually I really actually stick to my profession itself. That is the best for me. But anyway, that portion is really nice. I like. See, I need to Google it. I need to Google a lot. I need to have more information. What is up to? That's a very, very interesting topic. What I said is a very lively.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay. Yes, it's like okay, it's interesting, but I'm gonna stick to my profession. That's kind of easier. I know where I
See,
stand. Okay.
you see, when you say that, when you're saying that long term you have a lot of calculation, that turn up, that's a shoes, this, everything. See, I was actually looking at this. What is this? So many calculations. See, I'm not actually
Yeah.
good at that. Seriously.
Yeah, I understand. I understand. Like I said, you didn't use mathematics, but yeah, you have to use some sort of judgments and some, like you said,
Definitely,
calculations, or
definitely.
say to judge whether something is metaphorical or not. How do we perceive it, and so on. Yes,
Yeah, definitely. So
yes, you're
therefore,
right.
a lot of analysis and interpretation. Seriously,
Yes.
this sounds great to me, but I don't know what I do when I do that.
Thank you very much. Okay,
Okay,
I'm
that
glad that you
was,
like it.
thanks your time, and may God bless you and your pass with the flying colors and make your parents more and more proud. And I wish you become a very successful teacher also, and that's up to you.
Okay, thank you for having me. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to tell you something more about that. And thank you for all these wonderful compliments. They mean a world to me.
It's not about the compliments. It's always actually what I thought from your heart. See, that's it.
Thank
Seriously.
you. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you. All the best for you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, have a nice day. Okay.
Thank you. Same, same. My friends, hope you enjoyed the video. A special thanks to Anila. She provided deep insight about the linguistic. I hope it will be very useful for you. So, see you with the next title. Until then, this is Arun from Cherry Aleana. Thank you. See you soon.